Hello, I'm HQ of HQ Reacts. If you find yourself here and you're not subscribed, please like, share, and subscribe. If you find me on other social media platforms, please follow me, like, share, and subscribe. We are trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. So, you can catch me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Hello. This is HQ. We're back in the house. Now, we have gotten reports that Israel has done a preemptive strike to Iran because Iran was building nuclear weapons. Israel saw that as a threat and took shots first. Let's listen.
Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes to remove this threat. For decades, the tyrants of Tehran have brazenly, openly called for Israel's destruction. They've backed up their genocidal rhetoric with a program to develop nuclear weapons. In recent years, Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs. 9. In recent months, Iran has taken steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium. And if not stopped, Iran could produce a nuclear weapon in a very short time. It could be a year, it could be within a few months, less than a year. This is a clear and present danger to Israel's very survival. 80 years ago, the Jewish people were the victims of a Holocaust perpetrated by the Nazi regime. Today, the Jewish state refuses to be a victim of a nuclear Holocaust perpetrated by the Iranian regime. Now, as Prime Minister, I've made it clear time and again, Israel will never allow those who call for our annihilation to develop the means to achieve that goal. Tonight, Israel backs those words with action. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear enrichment program. We struck at the heart of Iran's nuclear weaponization program. We targeted Iran's main enrichment facility in Natanz. We targeted Iran's leading nuclear scientists working on the Iranian bomb.
Well, seems to me like they took the first swing. So they struck at the heart of Iran. So now, why is there a conflict? What is exactly going on in that part of the world? A lot of people don't know. We're going to hear from some people that are going to give us a short summary of what's going on in that region. Israel is the country that lines with the Gaza Strip, and they're already in conflict with the Gaza Strip people. Why are they choosing to get into another conflict with Iran? So we're going to hear from some people who can let us know what's going on.
Now, I understand that there's a lot of confusion about Israel and Palestine. So I'm going to give you a simple analogy of how it all started. So imagine you have your own house. In this case, it would be Palestine. And the stranger is looking for a place to live. He hasn't found a home anywhere else. In this case, it's Israel, the Jews. Because Europe, the whole world was telling them, no, you can't stay here. But Palestine lets them into the house. Now, eventually, the two share the home together. Then they take away the living room for Palestine. But Palestine is like, okay, that's okay. Then the kitchen. Palestine is like, that's weird. This is my house. And then Palestine is locked in the basement. And they're mad because this is their house. And slowly but surely, the stranger that you let into your house starts to control everything. The water, the electricity, the food. And you don't have the resources to fight back, so you call in the local gang. You don't approve of their methods, but they're the only ones helping you fight back. But the second you fight back, you're in the wrong. But the only mistake you made was showing kindness.
Is that true? Is that how that happened? I don't know, so let's hear from someone else.
Why is Israel building on land that millions say doesn't belong to them? And why do Palestinians live under military occupation 75 years after the conflict began? To understand what's happening now, you need to understand how it started. For centuries, the land that we know as Israel and Palestine was part of the Ottoman Empire. Jews, Muslims, and Christians lived there, often uneasily but side by side. That changed in World War I, and in 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, promising a national homeland to the Jewish people in Palestine. But at the same time, Britain had also offered independence to the Arab people if they fought against the Ottoman Empire in World War I, which they did. That's colonialism 101. Promise everyone everything and then divide and rule. Behind the scenes, Britain and France had already secretly carved up the Arab world. It was called the Sykes-Picot Agreement, and it split the Arab world into zones of influence: British Palestine, French Syria, Lebanon, and puppet states like Iraq and Transjordan. These new borders weren't drawn with culture or religion or language in mind. They were drawn with a ruler in an office in London and Paris. Straight lines do not belong on maps. But that is what the colonial powers gave the Middle East, and it is why it still burns today. In Palestine, Britain took over under the League of Nations mandate. It was meant to prepare the region for independence. Instead, it became a British colony in all but name. In the 1930s and 40s, as anti-Semitism surged across Europe, under fascist rule, countless atrocities were committed against the Jewish populations. These Jewish refugees fled to Palestine in growing numbers. Tensions exploded between the growing Jewish population and the Arab majority. The Arabs revolted, Britain cracked down hard, and violence became common. And by the 1940s, Britain had lost control. In 1947, the UN had proposed a partition plan, divide Palestine into a Jewish and Arab state. The Jewish leadership accepted it, the Arab leadership rejected it, seeing it as another in a long line of colonial impositions. In 1948, Britain withdrew. Israel declared independence, and Arab armies invaded. Israel won and counterattacked, seizing even more land than the UN had proposed. Over 700,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes. This is what Palestinians call Nakba, the catastrophe. Then came the 6 Days War in 1967. Israel captured the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, East Jerusalem, and the Golan Heights. And this is where the occupation began. Today, Israel still controls the majority of those lands. And since then, Israel has built hundreds of settlements on the West Bank, homes, schools, roads. They now house over 600,000 Israelis. Most of the world sees them as illegal. Israel says it's their ancestral home. Palestinians see it as colonialization. There have been peace talks, uprisings, bombings, rocket attacks, ceasefires, and collapse after collapse. The two-state solution has been talked about for decades, but on the ground, the land for Palestinian state is shrinking by the year. This conflict isn't ancient, it's colonial. It's about borders drawn up by outsiders, promises made and broken, and two peoples who believe that land to be theirs.
Did Palestinians invite Israel into their home and Israel took over from them? Took over the home? Is that what happened? So, if that is the case, and if that is the truth, and we can all look that up and find out who occupied it first and who invited who, then why is it that we're protecting Israel and not protecting the Palestinians? Let's see if we can get a little bit more understanding about what happened with this bombing and the Palestinians. Let's see.
Morning. So why has Israel just attacked Iran? Ignore the bogus excuses they're giving. There's three clear reasons why. One is rallying the nation. Two is rallying the allies. And three is distracting from Gaza and the West Bank. So let's go through those and let's go through the major caveat to all of that. So firstly, with regard to rallying the nation, whenever a country is at war, then basically the population and the cabinet and the parliament as a whole have to rally round. In this case, Netanyahu's government is hanging by a thread and things are starting to break in the country. So absolutely, they need to do something strong and something new to try and reset the game. This is a standard pattern from Netanyahu's government. Secondly, with regard to the allies, they are losing the support of their allies fast. In terms of weapons supply, in terms of sanctions being put on their ministers and other significant figures by their major allies. So if they're at war with Iran, just like when they were before, it forces allies to rally round and defend Israel and to intervene. And how can you stop supply of critical fighter jets and other military equipment if your ally is at war? So it resets all of that as well. And thirdly, things are going badly for Israel with regard to their global reputation on Gaza and West Bank and all of the aggressive actions that they're taking there. And if they can just cut the internet in Gaza so there's not information coming from out there after they've got rid of as many journalists as they can as well, and then start a new war, everyone's attention, particularly the mainstream media, which is fickle as anything, switches their focus onto the threat of Iran. So that's the game plan. The big caveat to all of that is if Iran doesn't respond. So you see, as soon as Iran responds, hey, morning, yeah, if Iran responds, then immediately Israel is the victim again. Israel is under attack. The allies have to help the citizens of Israel be defended from attacks, all of that script. But if Iran doesn't respond, then essentially pressure can continue to build on Israel over Gaza and the West Bank, and also in addition to that, their outright attack on Iran, and that changes the dynamic quite significantly. So hopefully Iran won't respond, and the pressure can continue to build on the Netanyahu government to breaking point for a solution there. Because if Iran does respond, then we're getting into a really unholy mess in the Middle East, which is exactly what Netanyahu wants.
Well, so now we've heard. If Iran responds, that means that we have to get involved. We have to supply planes, trains, automobiles, whatever, which basically means we're going to be in a war. Netanyahu wants to pull us into a war. We don't want to go into a war. Please don't pull us into a war. We just got out of one, right? Through Biden, 2020. We don't want to go through that again. So my whole point is this. You got a shady Netanyahu actor. So since we got a shady Netanyahu actor, this is exactly how the people feel. The people feel like he's going to pull us into it.
Breaking, fuck the news. Israel bombed Yemen again. This time they obliterated the last civilian aircraft in Sana'a International Airport, a plane meant for the Hajj pilgrimage. Not a military target, a symbol of hope. Simultaneously, Israel's government secretly approved 22 new illegal settlements in the West Bank, while Gaza starves, while Palestinians bury their children. Colonizers march on in. And if any European nation dares to recognize Palestine, Israeli officials threaten to annex more Palestinian land. This isn't a defense, it's an escalation. In Gaza, it's worse. At the U.S. and Israeli-backed aid site in Rafah, Israeli forces opened fire on starving civilians. At least one person was killed. Nearly 50 were wounded. This isn't aid, it's entrapment. Meanwhile, the U.S. continues to support the illusion of humanitarian aid while backing a mass slaughter. Land theft, mass displacement, manufactured famine, political blackmail, blackmail with bombs. This is not peace, it's power by any means necessary, and the entire world is watching in real time.
Which is my understanding. Israel can't call themselves the victim this time. They took the first shots. But since we always have them on perpetual victimhood, everybody gonna say, oh, Israel is under attack. Israel's being attacked. No, not this time. The world is watching. The world is watching that you bombed Iran first. People are pissed. Because I just got a feeling we're gonna be in it. We're going to be in it. And there's nothing that we can do to get out of it. There's nothing we can do to get out of it. This is what I don't like. We're in the middle of it because they want to keep Israel as a friend. They're our best friends. We're besties. We're besties. So now we have to put up with the nanny state taking care of somebody who starts fights, taking care of someone who's going to pull us into the middle of a war. This is the scary part. This is the scary part. But some people understand it better than I do.
This is interesting. This morning I asked where the No New Wars crowd was in regard to Trump threatening military action against Greenland, Mexico, Panama, and now we see Israel attacking Iran. And this person says, what new wars has Trump started? Threatening military action is not an act of war, and Israel firing Iran is not an American war. A war that was started in Biden's regime is not Trump's fault. A war that was started. So how you guys told us that Joe Biden was to blame for Russia invading Ukraine and for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Two things that we didn't start and that we're not involved in. We don't have military action. So when a war or a military conflict breaks out under a Democratic president, even if we're not the ones that started it, even if we're not involved in it, then it's the Democratic president's fault. Mm-hmm. But if one breaks out under a Republican president, even though we're not involved with it, we don't have military folks on the ground, it's not his fault.
Right.
You don't see the fucking hypocrisy in that?
Yeah.
Everything that happened on the fucking globe under Joe Biden was Joe Biden's fault, including the Ukraine war. I didn't say Donald Trump started any new wars, did I? I asked where the No New Wars crowd was now that we have the guy who is supposed to be the No New Wars guy, supposed to be the world peace guy, threatening military action against our allies, and we're seeing new wars break out. See, when the No New Wars crowd was running with that bullshit, no new wars under Donald Trump, they weren't saying America didn't start any new wars. They were saying there were no new wars anywhere on the planet while Donald Trump was president. He was a global peace president. But you guys sure fucking change your tune awfully fast, don't you? Now all of a sudden that we're having Israel levy strikes against Iran, all of a sudden it's, well, that's got nothing to do with us. So how is it Donald Trump's fault? How was Ukraine Joe Biden's fault? It wasn't. You're just a fucking hypocrite. You people can't own your shit and need to blame others for shit that isn't theirs all fucking day long, every day. You're fucking hypocrites. You know you're fucking hypocrites. Everybody on the fucking planet knows you're fucking hypocrites. You people are a fucking joke. You're a fucking joke. Had Israel struck Iran while Joe Biden was president, or had Kamala Harris won and Israel struck Iran, you guys would be screaming from the mountaintops, look, we got a Democratic president in the White House, and now we have another military conflict in the Middle East. But because Donnie Fuckstick is there, all of a sudden we ain't got nothing to do with it. Fuck you, you hypocritical bucket of shit.
And that's how some people think. That's how some people feel. Every time it's something that happens when Joe Biden is anywhere around or Obama is anywhere around, it's all Obama and Biden's fault. But when it's something that happens with Trump is around, never do you hear them trying to put Trump into the place. Don't hold him accountable. And whenever it's Trump, he's not being held accountable. He's not the one that we have to hold accountable. We got to hold the Democrats accountable. We can't hold Trump accountable. Oh, no way. No way.
Because whether we like it or not, Israel is pulling the entire globe into this conflict. Our own politicians are pulling us into this conflict by funding it, endorsing it, and passing speech laws in America if you question it. And the ultimate tragedy of this genocide is that in many ways, it's only possible because this one cowardly, evil man would rather watch the whole world burn than face the consequences of his corruption. Right. He would rather tear down Israel's democratic system, the only democracy in the Middle East. He would rather let his own people remain in Hamas captivity, rather let his own people continue to die in war, his own economy crumble, his own nation and people's goodwill evaporate all around the world, than face justice. Benjamin Netanyahu has opened the gates to the most vile, supremacist, fascist wing of Judaism to take power in Israel and to slaughter Palestinian men, women, and children. He has opened Pandora's box and crossed a line we will never return from. And he's doing it all just to save his own pathetic skin. But his cowardice is being used by extremists in Israel to achieve their own messianic goals. It's being used by deep staters around the world to profit off another forever war. It's being used by the surveillance state to test their dystopian technologies, and it's being used by the ruling class to further divide the people. Ultimately, I hope that we can move this conversation to a mature enough place where Jewish people around the world can have a bit of a reckoning with the reality of their national project, the reality of how their own religion can harbor extremist views, just like the Arabs that they are so quick to point the finger at. No group of people is beyond criticism. No group is exempt from the wickedness of humanity's darkest tendencies, and Jewish people face a unique and difficult reckoning. If Jewish people want to maintain a strong sense of national identity and unity, what happens when members of your tribe commit atrocities for corrupt reasons and then turn the world against you? When Jewish people group up around that identity, what happens when people notice and say Jewish people are conspiring against the rest of the world? How do you reconcile these things? If Jewish people are going to maintain such a strong global identity, to me, it seems that the burden falls to them to a certain degree to hold all other Jews to the highest moral standard. Or else, how can you blame people for collectively blaming Jews when it is Jews who group up collectively and defend the actions of a man like Netanyahu at any cost? And I know a lot of Jews don't do that. A lot of Jews think critically and are outspoken about the corruption in Israel and the insanity of its current course of action. The way that I see it, just me, all Jews are individuals, and they should be treated as such. I would encourage Jews not to treat Israel as an infallible project. Israel has committed many atrocities and has much to answer for. Tying your identity to a corrupt government is a horrible idea. As an American, my job is to loudly criticize my government for its crimes, and I call for it to do better. I would invite Jewish people to do the same for theirs, because with every dead Palestinian child, the world turns more and more against Israel and those who stand with her. Violence and hate only begets more violence and hate. It was that cycle of violence that got us into this mess. And the only way out of it is with Bibi behind bars.
Calling for his removal, calling for the removal of Netanyahu. So they consider him a war criminal, and a lot of people do. I don't know whether that's a fact or not, but just people who are calling for it. Now, our president says he doesn't back him. Our president says he doesn't, he has nothing to do with it. We will be drawn into this war if the president doesn't stick his foot down and say we're not going to get involved. But we're going to be involved anyway, because we're going to supply money. We're going to supply equipment, weapons, all of those things, which means we get drawn into a war. This is something that nobody wants. Yet, the president told Netanyahu, don't do it. And Netanyahu said, forget it. I'm going. We going. So, President Trump should have made it very clear. If you're going, we're not. We're not standing behind you. We're not getting into a war. We're not doing that. That's something the president should have made clear. The American people do not have a stomach for war again, which is something that President Trump should have stressed vehemently if he had to. We do not want any wars. We are not looking to get in a war. We're not looking to help anybody in a war. We're not looking to supply money to somebody in a war. Not in this size war. This is almost World War III. It might be the beginning of World War III.